This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. We just spent an amazing month tied to the dock at West Haven Marina, right in the heart of downtown Auckland. The majority of our time here was spent soaking in the city vibes and welcoming visitors from the United States. A couple highlights were being able to take Gary's mom and aunt out for a sail in the harbor and buying our new adventure vehicle, Gustav, affectionately referred to as Gus, a 2000 Mazda Bongo, basically camping ready, although Gary did upgrade the electrical system. This van is going to help us explore parts of New Zealand we can't reach from One Life. A few days ago, we left Auckland with my friend Addie on board and sailed to Waiheke Island, where we've been indulging in all the wine and vineyard views. Now it's time to switch things up a bit. Addie and I are heading out on a North Island road trip in Gus, while Gary embarks on his first ever solo sail around the Coromandel Peninsula to Whitianga, where we will reunite for our next adventure. This morning I am leaving Gary and One Life behind for a little adventure of my own. Addie and I are going to go take Gus for a bit of a land adventure. So it starts today, and it'll be the first time that we've really used Gus, so we're not really sure what we might be getting ourselves into, but we're super excited to go travel New Zealand by land. A bit bummed to be leaving Gary behind with One Life for his very first solo sail, but I know he's going to crush it. So step one of our journey here begins with a 2.5 kilometer walk to the ferry terminal, and then we'll take a 45-minute ferry ride over to the city and grab an Uber back to Marina before we get Gus. Are you ready for your adventure, Addie?
I'm ready.
It is really cold in the water here, but the bottom is clean. The sinks are changed. Now I gotta rinse off all of my gear and try to get warmed up because I'm shivering. My hands are shaking. The water is not warm here, even though it's summer. Take me back to the tropics.
We are back to Gus and we are off. Addie and I have been friends for over 20 years now, and so this is just really special to be able to do this trip with her in our little camper van, just the two of us. So we're gonna go adventure for like a week before, well, maybe not quite a week, but a few days before we go meet back up with Gary and One Life. But anyway, we don't really have too many plans. We're just gonna kind of wing it. Today we're on our way to Hobbiton. That's our first stop. So I just want to point out that one of the things about driving in New Zealand is they drive on the left here. So this is actually an adventure in itself for me. This is only the third time I have driven on the left-hand side of the road, and all have been in Gus. So this is quite new.
Whether we're out sailing on the ocean or road tripping across New Zealand, staying safe online is a top priority for us. That's why we love using Surfshark VPN. It keeps all of our online activity safe and secure, no matter if we're connected to a public Wi-Fi or connected via our Starlink out on our floating home in the middle of nowhere. Before arriving to a new country, we often have to email the authorities sensitive information like our passports and credit card numbers. Surfshark encrypts everything that we send and receive, so we never have to worry about this sensitive information being stolen. Plus, Surfshark never tracks or records any of your online activity. It's all about your privacy. One of my favorite features is that Surfshark lets us connect multiple devices at the same time. So when Brooke's out in the van and I'm sailing around, we can both be connected and stay safe and secure online. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you try it out and decide it's not for you, there's no risk. Right now, Surfshark is offering an extra 4 months for free, so head over to surfshark.com/sailing1life and grab this unbeatable deal. When we arrived at Wahiki yesterday, we went to drop the anchor and the windlass was not operating, so I had to drop it manually by hand. And right now I'm going through tracing the power all the way from the battery through the breaker to the solenoid box and up to the windlass motor to try to figure out if it's getting power and what the issue might be. I was suspecting it could be the solenoid that failed, so I'm testing that right now in the forward cabin. And I don't know, if I can't get it sorted, then I'm going to have to pull the anchor by hand, which is going to be a little extra challenge to this single-handing mission. But luckily it's nice and calm in here, so I don't think it'll be too hard. So this little box here in the forward cabin under the berth is called the solenoid relay, and it essentially takes the inputs from the foot switches up on deck and then switches the power going to the motor with the big heavy cables. This basically just keeps us from having to have really heavy run cables to the switches on deck. You can use smaller cables back to this relay. It seems to be working. So it has voltage, and when I push the foot switches, I can hear it clicking and switching over. So I think the problem might be the windlass motor itself. So in here is the electric motor part of the windlass. This is geared to the horizontal capstan and gypsy. And yeah, it looks like the wires are actually connected internal to the motor, which is not going to make this any easier to troubleshoot.
Hobbiton is the authentic movie set from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, nestled into a picturesque New Zealand countryside. We spent the day exploring the cutest little hobbit holes and experiencing all the intricate details of the Hobbit village. It was every bit as charming as you'd imagine, and we even topped off the day with a drink at the Green Dragon Inn.
So I pulled the motor out of the back of the windlass here, and after turning the shaft to make sure it turns freely, I tried the foot switches again, and every now and then it does kick and spin. So I think because it doesn't always work, that means that the brushes inside of the motor are probably bad. So I don't know if I can take this one apart, and even if I could get it apart, I don't have brushes on board for it. So I think I'm gonna leave it as is, put it back together, and see if I can't order a new replacement motor for it, because the casing is pretty corroded. I'm guessing even if I took it apart and looked inside of it, it's probably near the end of its life anyway, even if I was to replace the brushes. So I'm gonna try to find a new one to order, get it here in New Zealand, and maybe then I'll have this one rebuilt and keep it as a spare. But for now, I think it's just gonna be manual windlass pulling.
So, driving in a van is really funny because we are on our way after Hobbit Town, and we literally are just stopping at the grocery store to get something to make for dinner tonight. So that's super easy peasy, which is awesome. And it'll be our first time cooking in Gus, so that'll be fun. All guests, visitors must report to office. So for our first night in Gus, we decided to do an actual campground, and we arrived past check-in, so they had a little note in here for us, and we're trying to figure out where we go. Where we go, Addie?
I don't know. C.
See.
I did. Oh, you haven't? I was like, okay.
What do you think of your kitchen tonight?
I love it. I think it's great.
Perfect.
Cheers.
I'm gonna go ahead and hoist the dinghy, which normally me and Brooke do together, but we gotta figure out how to do it on my own. Luckily it's really calm in here, and I'm gonna leave tomorrow, so I figure I'll get the dinghy up and secured tonight, so tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm ready to go.
How was it?
It was good. I slept good.
What was the only problem? You woke
I was still waking up on Missouri time when I should be going to work.
which is 1 a.m. here. So that's been a little hard.
Yeah, but besides that, I was comfortable and slept good.
Yeah, Gus is really comfy.
Mm-hmm.
Our little
So we're
cocoon.
making coffee and tea for breakfast. And have a muffin and some granola.
This is luxury. Today we're just gonna drive another hour at first, and we're gonna go visit Watomo Caves, which is the glowworm cave, and we're gonna go on a black rafting adventure, which is super excited for. And then we're gonna do about another hour and a half of driving over to the west coast to Maricopa Beach. So we just finished up with the glowworms, and it was really cool. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring a GoPro, but we did get some really epic pictures. I just talked to Gary. He's getting ready to pull anchor to start his journey. I feel a little bummed that I'm not there to help him, but I know he's gonna do awesome. I feel like a worried mother right now, but I know he's got this.
It is time to get going on my first ever solo sail on any boat, just not on One Life. I've never sailed alone, so this should be a lot of fun, and I'm going to make sure I do everything extra careful and extra safe, and I'll show you guys along the way what I'm doing differently because Brooke's not here. The first thing is getting the anchor up, which, since our windlass just broke, this is going to be a real challenge. It's blowing 15 to 20 knots in the anchorage right now, and trying to pull up our 65-pound anchor, plus all the chain by hand against that wind is going to be a struggle. So I'm going to fire up the engine, put us in gear, and drive towards the anchor, go forward, pull up as much chain as I can, lock it off, and then if I have to come back to the helm and motor forward again and just repeat that a few times until I've got all the chain and anchor up, that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Well, that was a workout. I am quite out of breath, but it worked out pretty well. Luckily, there was no boats anchored too close to me, so I had plenty of room to just drift. I'm back now, just motoring my way out of the bay here, and then when I get out to where it's a little more open, I'll go forward and I'll clean up the foredeck and put away the chain and the bridle and make sure that's all cleaned up. Sail is out. It's pretty much 15 knots right behind me today. So I'm going to keep it simple and just use the head sail. And now that we're out of the bay, no traffic or wing foilers around, I'm going to go forward and clean up the foredeck. And one thing you'll notice is I'm already wearing my life jacket. And since I'm the only person on board, falling overboard is a lot more serious since there would be no one to turn the boat around and come get me. So I've rigged the jack lines on the deck that we use for our offshore and rough weather sailing. And every single time I leave the cockpit, I'm going to be clipped into those jack lines because I absolutely cannot risk falling overboard. All right, we're looking good so far. Really, really nice flat water sailing right now.
Oh, wow.
I just talked to Gary. He is off. He got the anchor up. Super proud of him. It's never easy to pick up an anchor without a windlass. Addie and I are here. We stopped at Maricopa Falls, one of the most beautiful waterfalls I've ever seen. And now we're here at Maricopa Beach, and it's a black sand beach with the stunning like green hillside. And it's just really hard to describe the contrast between the two, but it's gorgeous. And it's amazing to be in a place like this. We're the only ones here. There's no one else around. We're just walking the beach, and yeah, it's really cool. But I'm covered in this little cave that I saw, and the view is just perfect. Maricopa Beach is situated on the west coast of New Zealand's North Island. We've been to many beaches over the years, but there is something about this dramatic black sand beach, along with the rugged cliffs, that made me feel like we had stumbled onto another planet. It's wild, remote, and simply stunning, and with a population of less than 100 people, far from the normal tourist route.
Okay, let's talk about jack lines and tethers. We get a lot of comments about these things, whether they appear in our videos or when they don't appear in our videos. But we've got a pretty good setup here on One Life, and we're pretty comfortable that we have it set up the best way we can on board this particular boat. So our life jackets act as harnesses. We can clip our tethers to the harness point on those, and then our tethers have 2 additional legs that come off. One is a little bit shorter, and then one is longer and stretchy. And what the 2 allows you to do is to always stay clipped in. So if you come to a point where you need to switch from one lifeline to another, or switch over something in the way, you can clip the second one on and then undo the first one, and that way you're always connected to something. Pretty similar to how ziplining or rock climbing or any of those other things would be done. As far as our jack lines go, we've chosen to run 2 jack lines on the sides of the boat that run all the way from the stern all the way up to the bow. And people pretty regularly tell us that we should run our jack line down the middle because it's safer. And that might be true on a lot of crude race boats, big open decks, but on our particular boat, that just really wouldn't work so well. So one reason for that is that we're a center cockpit. So when we leave the cockpit, we have to exit onto the side deck and move forward. If we had our jack line on the bow in the center, we would have to then unclip from the side jack line,
step up on the deck house towards the mast, deal with all of the rigging of the staysail, which is going to be in the way. And if the staysail happens to be pulled out, it'll be even more in the way. And then reconnect in the center to move forward, and then move forward around the staysail and stay up there. It just doesn't really make as much sense. So what we prefer is just to go up on the windward side, the high side of the boat, on whichever jackline that is. And that also lets us stay along the walkway on the side deck. We have the handholds of the stays on the side and the lifeline. We have a handhold on the deck there. And it's much safer for us to move forward and aft there. I've got a ferry headed straight at us, so I need to pay attention here and take a little break from talking and see which way they're going to go. Okay, ferry turned a little to its port, and we passed on starboard to starboard. Never really sure if they're going to turn or not, and they're doing about 30 knots. So as a sailboat doing about 5 or 6 knots, we really don't have much control over how we pass. Anyway, though, back to the jacklines. So I was saying that, running them on the side deck seems to work best for us, just given the layout of our boat, and we feel safe with it. Key thing is just don't fall overboard. I also have a PLB in my life jacket. That's always in there. Brooke has one in her life jacket as well. And if we were to fall overboard and be separated from the boat, we could set that off. That's an added safety feature that we feel like it's really important to have on you. You never know what could happen, although we do our best to stay on the boat at all costs. Well, it's been pretty nice sailing so far. I did one jibe, and I'm entering the Colville Channel right now, which is just north of the Coromandel Peninsula, and it's beautiful. It's pretty flat seas, just the couple feet of wind chop behind me, and the sun setting in the distance back over Auckland. I think it's going to be a nice night. The sky's perfectly clear, so I think I might be in for a treat of some stars tonight. But check out how beautiful the Coromandel Peninsula is here.
How was your day?
It was good. You saw a beautiful waterfall and a beautiful black sand beach with amazing views.
Now we're going back to Gus in the Kiwi camp. And this is where we're anchored tonight. Fortunately, we weren't able to stay on the beach. It would have been really cool to be able to camp right there, but that's okay. I must admit, I am feeling a little guilty. I'm here, the sun's getting ready to go down, and I just poured a glass of wine for Addie and I. And I know that Gary will be settling into his night watch soon. So I just want to say, Gary, when you edit this, when we're watching this, thank you. I really appreciate having this time with Addie. It's super special for us to be able to do this trip. So I know it's not easy getting the boat ready to sail and sailing on your own, but I'm very thankful for you and all that you do for us and One Life. We hope you join us next time as Gary completes his first solo passage and Addie and I continue our road trip to Whitianga. A big thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out the link in the description below to take advantage of an amazing discount.